The mysterious old man, the expensive car, the strange calculations in the newspaper, the auditors, the frightened manager, none of it seemed connected, yet somehow it felt every piece belonged to the same puzzle. He simply hadn't discovered the picture yet. This is The Beggar Who Bought the Bank, Part 2. The days that followed felt unusually heavy. Even the atmosphere around Crown Trust Bank has changed. Employees who once laughed freely now spoke in whispers. Department heads walking quietly through the hallways with worried expressions. Meetings were held behind closed doors almost every afternoon. Whenever Daniel entered an office to clean, conversation stopped immediately. Something was happening. No one was willing to say what it was. Outside, however, life seemed unchanged. The old man still arrived before sunrise. He still swept that small place beneath the rain tree with an old hand broom before sitting down. He still greeted everyone with the same peaceful smile. And every morning, Daniel still bought him bread and tea. One Tuesday morning, Daniel arrived earlier than usual. As he approached the tree, he noticed the old man feeding crumbs to a flock of birds. The birds surrounded him without fear. "They trust you?" Daniel asked. The old man smiled without looking up. "Animals judge differently from people." "What do you mean? They don't care what you are wearing." Daniel laughed softly. "I think you are right." The old man scattered the last crumbs onto the ground. "People often sing clothes before they see character." Daniel sat beside him. "Baba, can I ask you something?" "You can ask." "Why this bank?" The old man remained silent for several seconds. His eyes stayed fixed on the glass building across the road. Finally, he answered, "Every place has a story, and this one has many." Daniel expected another mysterious explanation, but the old man said nothing more. Just then, the bank's door opened. Employees began arriving. The conversation ended. That same afternoon, an incident occurred that spread through the bank before closing time. A middle-aged woman entered carrying a small envelope. Her husband had recently passed away, and she needed access to the savings they had built together over 25 years. She stood patiently in line. When it was finally her turn, the cashier explained that one signature on her document did not exactly match the records. The woman pleaded, "I buried my husband 3 days ago. I only need enough money for my children's school fees." The cashier looked genuinely sorry. "I wish I could help." Before she could continue, Mr. Raymond appeared. "What is the problem?" The cashier explained quietly. Mr. Raymond barely looked at the widow. "If the signature doesn't match, reject the request." "Sir?" "I said reject it." The woman burst into tears. "I have done nothing wrong. My children haven't eaten since yesterday." Mr. Raymond straightened his expensive tie. "This is a bank, not a place for emotional stories." "Next customer." Daniel watched the woman leave, crying as she cluttered her envelope. He couldn't shake the image from his mind. That evening, he told the old man everything. The old man listened without interrupting. When Daniel finished, the old man sighed deeply. "There are two kinds of wealth." Daniel looked up. "The first fills your pockets. The second fills your heart. Only one of them follows you through life." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "You always make simple things sound important." The old man smiled. "Because they are." A few days later, something unusual happened. A black SUV stopped briefly on the opposite side of the road. It was not the same Daniel had seen before. The vehicle was newer. Its windows were completely tinted. A man wearing a dark suit stepped out. Instead of entering the bank, he walked directly towards the old beggar. Daniel was sweeping near the entrance and watched from a distance. The suited man greeted the old man respectfully, very respectfully. He even lowered his head slightly before speaking. Their conversation lasted less than a minute. Then the man handed the old beggar a sealed brown envelope. The old man accepted it without opening it. The man returned to the SUV and drove away. Daniel stared in confusion. That didn't look like someone giving charity. It looked like someone reporting to a superior. When Daniel crossed the road during his lunch break, he couldn't hide his curiosity. "Baba, who was that man?" The old man smiled. "A friend." "You have rich friends?" The old man laughed quietly. "Friendship doesn't know the difference between rich and poor." Daniel smiled. "You've escaped my question again." I answered it. "No, you didn't." The old man simply chuckled. The following morning, the atmosphere inside the bank became even more tense. Auditors from the head office occupied one of the conference rooms. Every department submitted files. Computers were checked. Financial records were reviewed. Managers were questioned individually. Rumors spread rapidly. Some employees claimed millions of naira had disappeared. Others believed the bank was about to be sold. No one knew the truth. Only one thing was obvious. Mr. Raymond looked exhausted. His once confident smile had vanished. He barked at employees over the smallest mistakes. He barely slept, and he seemed terrified whenever his phone rang. That evening, heavy rain poured over the city. Daniel finished work late. As he stood outside, he noticed the old man still sitting beneath the tree. The rain fell around him like a curtain. Daniel hurried over. "Baba, why didn't you go home?" The old man looked at the dark clouds. "Sometimes I like listening to the rain." Daniel opened the umbrella. "Come, I'll walk you home." The old man stood slowly. For the first time, instead of heading towards the crowded market where everyone assumed he lived, he walked in the opposite direction. Daniel followed beside him. They walked silently for almost 15 minutes. Finally, they reached an old neighborhood filled with modest houses. The old man stood in front of a tiny rented room. "This is where I stay." It was simple, very simple. A wooden bed, a small table, a kerosene stove, a shelf with a few books, nothing more. Daniel looked around. "You really live here?" The old man nodded. "I have everything I need." As Daniel was about to leave, his eyes fell on one of the books lying open on the table. It wasn't a novel. It wasn't a Bible. It was a thick book on banking, investments, and corporate finance. Beside it lay another book titled Leadership and Business Ethics. Daniel frowned. "Baba, I thought you never went to school." The old man smiled as he gently closed the books. "I never said that." Daniel laughed. "You are the most mysterious person I've ever met." The old man looked out through the small window towards the city lights. "No, my son, the world is mysterious. People simply stop paying attention." Daniel left with more questions than answers. As he disappeared into the night, the old man remained standing by the window. On the small table beside him lay the sealed brown envelope the suited man had delivered earlier. The old man finally opened it. Inside were several neatly arranged documents. He read each page carefully. Then, for the first time since Daniel had known him, the old man's gentle smile disappeared. He closed his eyes, folded the documents, and quietly whispered to himself, "So, the time has finally come." The next morning, Daniel noticed something immediately. The old man wasn't there. The spot beneath the rain tree was empty. For 3 years, through scorching heat, heavy rain, public holidays, and even nationwide strikes, the old man had never failed to appear. Yet, that morning, there was nothing, only a few dry leaves blowing across the pavement. Daniel found himself looking across the road every few minutes while cleaning the banking hall. Perhaps he was running late. Perhaps he was ill. By midway, he still hadn't come. A strange feeling settled in Daniel's chest. He couldn't explain it. It was as though the street had lost part of his identity. Even the security guard noticed. One of them laughed. "Looks like the old man finally gave up." Another replied, "Good. Customers will stop complaining." Mr. Raymond overheard them and smiled. 3 days passed. Still no sign of the old beggar. Daniel began asking nearby traders whether anyone had seen him. Mama Bosse, who sold bread by the roadside, shook her head sadly. "I have been wondering the same thing. He didn't even come to say goodbye." An elderly newspaper vendor sighed. "He always bought yesterday's paper from me. I hope nothing bad has happened. Daniel visited the small rented room where he had walked the old man home only days before. The door was locked. The landlord sat outside repairing a broken chair. I am looking for the old man who rented this room, Daniel asked. The landlord smiled. Oh, Baba Jacob. It was the first time Daniel had heard the old man's name. He left. When? 3 nights ago. Did he say where he was going? The landlord shook his head. He simply thanked me for everything. He paid 6 months' rent even though he wasn't staying. Then he left before sunrise. Daniel frowned. Did anyone come for him? The landlord thought for a moment. Yes, a black vehicle. They spoke for a few minutes. Then they drove away. Daniel's heart beat faster. The mysterious car again? Who exactly was Baba Jacob? Back at the bank, the situation was becoming worse. Customers complained about delayed transactions. Senior executives from the head office visited almost every day. Entire departments were questioned. Whispers of financial misconduct spread through the building. One afternoon, Daniel entered the staff kitchen and overheard 2 senior officers talking. They are investigating Raymond. They say millions can't be accounted for. Do you think he will survive this? I doubt it. Daniel quietly walked away before they noticed him. For the first time, he remembered something the old man had once said. Character is the only wealth nobody can steal. At the time, Daniel thought it was simply another wise saying. Now, it sounded different. A week later, the city woke to the shocking news. Every newspaper carried the same headline. Crown Trust Bank faces major restructuring. Customers crowded outside the branches. People feared the bank would collapse. Inside, panic spread among employees. Some believed they would lose their jobs. Others hurriedly submitted applications to other companies. Mr. Raymond tried to appear confident, but everyone noticed how pale he had become. His hands shook during meetings. His smile had disappeared. Daniel wondered what the old man would have said if he had been there. Then, on a quiet Thursday morning, everything changed. At exactly 9 o'clock, 6 black luxury vehicles pulled into the bank's parking lot. They moved slowly, deliberately, not with the flashing lights of politicians, nor the hurried pace of police officers, but with the calm confidence of people who already knew why they had come. Employees gathered behind the glass entrance. Customers whispered among themselves. Even passersby stopped to watch. The first vehicle door opened. Several men in dark suits stepped out carrying briefcases. Behind them came 2 women dressed in elegant business suits. Then another man carrying stacks of official documents. Their faces were serious, professional. No one recognized them. Mr. Raymond hurried downstairs, forcing a smile. Good morning. Welcome to Crown Trust Bank. One of the visitors nodded politely. We are here for the scheduled meeting. Raymond frowned slightly. Scheduled by who? The board. His smile faded. The board? Yes. Without another word, the visitors walked inside. Within minutes, the boardroom doors were closed. Security officers politely asked employees to return to work. The meeting lasted almost 3 hours. Nobody knew what was being discussed. Rumors spread through every department. Maybe foreign investors are buying the bank. No, I heard the central bank sent them. I heard the chairman is coming. By noon, the tension had become unbearable. Then, the boardroom doors finally opened. Everyone looked up. The visitors stepped out first. Behind them walked the chairman of Crown Trust Bank. His expression was impossible to read. He stopped in the middle of the banking hall and addressed the employees. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. I have an important announcement. The entire hall fell silent. Not even a phone rang. Not even a keyboard clicked. Daniel felt his heart pounding. Something enormous was about to happen. He just didn't know that the answer to every question he had been asking for 3 years was only moments away. And that, my friends, is the end of part 2. If you love this story and you want to continue watching, you want part 3, please leave it to the comment section and subscribe to this channel. I promise I'll be back with part 3.